because it's close to 12 noon. My name is Seno Tsuhah. I am from Chizami village in Nagaland. I'm a school teacher and also, engages with communities. And my work in the last more than 2 decades, I've been associated with women agencies, the Chizami Women's Society and Northeast Network. Currently, I am the chairperson of the Nenterprise Chizami Weaves, which is a livelihood program that came out of the Northeast Network. My presentation will be of a little bit different from all the presentations that you have seen, you have heard. My talk will be on community, women-led initiatives, stories of resilience. I would like to bring 1 or 2 stories. And I would like to also bring in, why, we need to look at the gender aspect when we are doing ecological restoration or ecosystem restoration. If we look at Northeast region, we have many ethnic groups, more than 200 ethnic groups. And in all these indigenous communities, we see that there is some imbalance when it comes to, gender equality. And we also sometimes fail to acknowledge the women's knowledge and the contributions to biodiversity conservation, to indigenous or to food systems, to nutrition, health, ecological security, or as a person, as a contributor to climate resilience. So I am bringing, a few stories of women-led initiatives. And why it is important is that, women play critical roles in the kind of knowledge that women have, the indigenous knowledge, ecological knowledge, the kind of, the knowledge about resource management, and also, as food producers, as healers, as peace builders, as, cultural and spiritual stewards. But again, I say that, I repeat again, that, we have gender-specific challenges, and that is everywhere, but I'm coming specific to Northeast again, that there is patriarchy, which we see that one force that steers our communities. We see exclusion of women in decision-making bodies. Thus, when women are excluded in decision-making bodies, they are also out of environmental, governance. And here we are talking about conservation. Denial of social, political, economic rights. And when we see at the climate crisis, there are many examples, or let me put in another word, there is this gender climate change impacts. And amongst everything, we have conflict and militarization in the region, but we are, surviving, we are going ahead. And these are possible because of the small work that we all are doing in our capacities as scientists, as farmers, as community mobilizers. I have some kind of, a feeling that, when I have chosen this topic of community-led initiatives, women-led initiatives, I feel that a lot of times that in our ecosystem restoration work, we forget women, which is something that, I said to myself that I'll talk about something that we are doing in the community, and it is about seeds. It's not about wild animals, it's not about, trees. I'm going to bring in the seeds, which I feel that that it is important, that the small work that we do in Chizami village and in other villages has an importance to ecosystem restoration. Here we are also trying to see that, we have women playing as, critical roles, because they are the ones who have very, very wide knowledge about the indigenous seeds, the indigenous food and farming systems. And when we are saying food and farming systems, it's not only about the cultivated food that comes from the farmland, but it is also about diverse food, flowers, nuts, tubers, and uncultivated, herbs that comes from the forest. And here, biodiversity is life again, because we cannot do without food. Here I am also when I say food, and the kind of role that women play, the kind of, the generational knowledge transfers that women play. I recall my first outing in or trekking in the forest was with my mother and her friends. That was when I was just 5 or 6 years old. And the kind of leafy vegetables that they have foraged in the forest was huge. And the kind of, coming back with stories and laughters and singing folk songs and reaching home, what they did is that they divided, bundles of the ferns and different types of uncultivated foods. They distributed, with the neighbors and elders. And this also reminds me of the strong ecological, solidarity economy, I should say, which is also becoming less. And we have to keep these things also in our restoration process of talking about sharing and, ecology and solidarity economy. All these are linked with each other. I have made a very general, PPT, just 5 slides, because I'm afraid I talk so much that, with 17, 18, I may go for 20 minutes, so just make 5. I'm also trying to show some of the landscape in our communities, the terrace cultivation. The terrace cultivation, which also not only grow paddy, but also grow other food. And we have many things. But I'm just showing the landscape to some of our friends who might not have gone to the hills, to the mountains in our part. So, now what we have been doing, especially through Northeast Network, a women's agency, that we support, women's leadership, voice and agency to bring in gender equality. And this slide that you see is on Chizami Women's Society's work. But what NEN has done is that in the last 30 years, NEN has been building capacities of women leaders, the local women leaders, so that women can initiate work that will be helpful to the people of the community and also their environment. We also see that, when we started working, we have to see that the agro-biodiversity, which people are already, practicing, or I should say it's an indigenous food and farming practice, but slowly it is coming down. It's not slowly, it's going in a very fast trend. And so what we try to look back is the indigenous food and farming system, and to see that agro-biodiversity for food, nutrition, livelihood, and also not only for food, but also for ecological security, because here we are trying to rely on the resources that are in the communities and not bring in some external inputs like fertilizers and pesticides and whatnot. So that's something that NEN and Chizami Women's Society was continuously promoting. It's also, one example of this supporting women-led community seed banks. And this is the seed bank. The picture that you see is the Chizami Women's Society members. And the seed bank was established in 2017, and what we try doing is that we gather, we also preserve, we also, like grow the indigenous varieties. Right now, I think, it's more than 150 they have collected. And then this includes the varieties of rice, this includes pulses, the crops that we grow in our June cultivation. And along with this, it also became a learning space for many young people to come, for people who wants to learn more on the indigenous food and farming system. It's a space that they have created. It's not only preserving the seeds, but it's also sharing good seeds with other communities, with farmers from the community. So it has served 3-4 things which are very, very crucial when we are talking about ecological restoration or ecosystem restoration. And here in this, it's not only in Chizami, but we have also started, in different villages where it is led by women. So this is one example that I would like to share with you all, because when we are talking about conservation, we forget about the small bits sometimes, And it is also important because it is also a basic need for every one of us, and it is also political, it is also spiritual, it is also culture, it is everything, I should say. So this is something that, the women of Chizami, the women of Patsonoken from Noklak area, the women of Khor, they have started, on conserving and preserving and also growing the local seeds. There is also another thing, when we are talking about conservation, Northeast Network or with Chizami Women's Society might not have worked directly on conservation, but we have been supporting initiatives that are helping to lessen the dependency on the forest. We have started a livelihood program that is to do with local craft, that is weaving. And weaving is something that, the skill is already with the women. The skill is already with the community, and it's part of our culture. And so, we started working in 2008, we started a small initiative that has grown to maybe now from 7 weavers to around 1,000 weavers. And now we are working with 600-700 weavers that are regularly engaged with Chizami weaves, Nenterprise, and in Assam also they have Saniti weaves. I will be sharing more on the Chizami weaves. And in this livelihood program, what we have been doing is that our weavers the primary occupation is subsistence agriculture. So they continue doing that. But in addition to that, they bring in, additional income that makes them less dependent on the forest produce. And this is something that has helped. And as part of conservation, I think what we also have to consider is that you strengthen other ecosystems. The ecosystems, the larger ecosystems, whether it is craft, whether it is, to do with other livelihood, whether it is to do with, education or health, all these are very, very important. So that is one initiative that we have started. And another one is the millet sisters. Millet has disappeared in our landscape for some time. It has come back. We have worked very hard together with other partners since 2010. And finally it is recognized by the government, and now it has been recognized and accepted that that's something very important part. And because why we are promoting this is also because we are promoting millet-based agro-biodiverse farming, because it's not only just promoting one grain or one petty or one crop, but it is promoting again agro-biodiversity. And here we have women collectivizing themselves as millet sisters and taking on the role of, going to the fields in their own communities and then collectivizing more than 10 villages in Shamator town, and then more than, in Peg district, also more than 10 villages. So we have millet sisters who have been taken forward, or who are the ambassadors promoting this ecological agriculture. The other thing is, what we also believe is that youth is our hope. And so a lot of youth engagement and, ecological biodiversity education that we have initiated has also shown, some progress or some results, and very much, some hope. And I will tell an example, like in 2010 when we started under the canopy program with the Dusty Food, the Green Hub, we could, engage young people, and the young people, along with the guidance of the experts who knows how to do documentation and other stuff. Like in our village, they have documented 216 butterfly species, and also documented around 90 documented the birds species. So like small work that we try to engage with young people and try to see that it is taken as part of, like an education to them, so that they are changed for life. And we have also started a very interesting program that is to do with, the Nen Farm School, which brings in urban children to the village and learn about ecology, learn about indigenous farming, learn about the water sharing systems, so that is also something that we are very hopeful that we will be able to, continue to somehow plant a movement of young people to go into, the agroecology work that is very important to us. So all these things, in a very small presentation, I just wanted to wrap up that it is important when we are talking about conservation, it's important to consider that how do we integrate gender equality in ecosystem restoration. How do we foster a collaborative space for learning and advocacy around gender-responsive approaches to ecosystem restoration? It is important that we empower and we support women's leadership in ecological initiatives. It is important that we give space and acknowledge women's knowledge as part of, the main stakeholders when it comes to intergenerational knowledge transfer. And it is important to have a collaborative engagement where we should not forget that centering women's voices, centering indigenous or local women's voices and perspectives and knowledge, we can all foster a more inclusive and sustainable approach to ecology. Thank you.
Thank you, Seno. Yes, we have again time for 2 questions. Okay, 1.
Thank you so much for an excellent presentation. So in Jharkhand and other parts of central India, we are also working with bringing back millets. So you said millets had virtually disappeared. So what challenges did you face in bringing it back into diets? I think if I'm not mistaken, the staple now would be rice. So how successful have you been in bringing millets back into diets vis-a-vis rice, and how receptive have the younger people been with accepting millets in their diet, and what initiatives have you been trying with regards to bringing millets back into everyday diets? Thank you.
Rice is always a staple food for us. Millet has been a supplementary food for our community. So it has not become staple food, and it will not become staple food, but definitely it has come back to our plates in a very small ways because there are many reasons. And what the young people, the taste, they don't like millets. So what we did is that we tried to bring in innovative ideas, try to, bring in different taste of, millets by making it like, what is that, sweets, biscuits, cookies. We also try to see that, we try to bring in different ways, through different ways, cooking competition that we just had some 2 weeks back, where only traditional food is asked to be presented, and where communities, the weaving communities have done that, amazing, and they have brought up very excellent traditional, recipe that is pumpkin and, millets, like porridge type, which was very good, and many people said that, oh, lovely, we will make it. So I think it's important to bring in, innovative, programs, different, and then try to also see that we make taste innovations, which as Northeast Network, we have conducted a lot of, programs around that. And when we say that the success, it's very difficult to quantify it, but it has come back. And when I say it has come back, then the landscape should also change again. So there are less people who are doing, Jum cultivation for many reasons. And when we grow in isolated place, it is the biggest challenge is the attack of the pest, birds, and animals. So that is one reason that is discouraging the farmers. And the other thing is, the processing, technology, which rice mill we have, but millets, dehusking is very difficult, and we have very less option to that. I know 1-2 communities like the millet sisters, they have even procured a millet processing machine through the government, which is also another success, a feather in the collectives. So I hope a little bit, maybe I will continue later on.
Any other question? Hi ma'am, thank you for your presentation. So I'm also working on building a seed bank in Dambuk. I wanted to know, how do you quantify the germination rate of the seeds? Yours has been established since 2017. I just wanted to know if you could throw more light around seed bank.
Germination rate is almost 100, and maybe 101 also, because that's local varieties that has been growing in our land. But with climate change, the farmers are doing multiple ways. It's not like the traditional practice. In March we sow the seeds, but now we have to, if there is no rain, then we have to sow it again, so that the second sowing, some germination will be there. And if we sow also, the birds will attack, then in August they are, sowing again. So I think, germination rate is 100%, but you need to adapt to the changes, the climate change. Sometimes it is very hot, nothing comes out, so twice they will sow. Sometimes because of the pest attack, now for millets, usually in March, now it is now down in August, and harvesting just now. So, we really need to, it's local context, okay? Because I'm from the mountains and from the hills. The seeds that I borrow from the mountains, the germination rate is, almost 100%. But the seeds that we borrow from the plains, 50%, or it may not give yield. So it depends. I think if what we are doing in Chizami is the local varieties that we have been growing in the village and neighboring communities for hundreds of years.
Okay, just a follow-up question. Do you also sell these seeds?
We don't sell, we exchange. People borrow and people give back. And to a very well-meaning farmers, if they need, we share, but not really sell. Maybe, like some we are also considering, because at the end of the day, the women-led community seed banks also needs to sustain. So far, not really selling when it comes to rice and other grains and other pulses, but a lot of seed banks does that. Okay, so I just half a minute. There is one community whom we also started a seed bank. After 5 years, I went back to that village and asked, okay, so how is the seed bank? They said, we have closed it. Oh, why did you close it? Because everybody saves seeds in their own home. We don't need a seed bank that is 100% success. Thank you.